Well, young man, are you proud of this little debacle? I believe the detective would be quite disappointed. I assume you came to recover these children? Take them and go.
Not without my sister, Tara Markov. We know the League of Shadows has her!
Stay your tongue when addressing the demon's head.
It is fine, Sensei. Boy, the Shadows may indeed have your sister, but I am no longer head of the Shadows. As you can see, there are no shadows here. In fact, I'm no longer part of the light.
He lies.
Ra's al Ghul is many things, but a liar isn't one of them.
Would the Great One care to reveal who is running the Shadows now?
No, he would not.
It's not my dad, is it?
No.
My sister?
Get out.
Gray, son.
Ah, your memory's finally returning. Excellent.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. We got a whole bunch of new Young Justice to break down. There are a couple really big reveals, whole bunch of WTF moments. So we'll do this just like I did my video last week for Wally West. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're doing a new round of that DC Universe giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite WTF moment from the episode on the video. Spoiler warning for episodes 4 through 6. You can see we've skipped a couple of really big Batman stories in the time jumps between seasons, but I'll try to explain what they're doing with that, because I'm sure they're all just setting stuff up for later in the season. So working our way through all the episodes, top 10 WTF. Here we go. Number 10. All the Roys in the Google VR goggles. Obviously, it's meant to be a parody of Google VR, which is an actual thing in real life. But if you've ever watched any of classic Star Trek The Next Generation, you know that when you start seeing all your characters walking around seemingly hypnotized by a really cool video game, and it's a sort of virtual reality environment, and you don't know what's really going on with the tech behind it, then it's probably going to turn out to be something really, really bad. Think about the lights soda in the early seasons, like anything that's mass-produced that everybody in the show seems to be hooked on, like, oh, this is so great. Even Barbara Gordon is hooked on this Google VR stuff that's going on, so clearly it's going to be terrible. It's probably going to have something to do with the light later this season. All the Team Harper stuff was great. Quick reminder on Roy and all of his clones, because they call it the Harper family, like they have the security business that they're all probably going to be operating together. So Beardy here, the leader of the group, is Will Harper. He's Red Arrow. He's a clone of the original Roy, who had a daughter with Cheshire named Leanne. She's the little girl that you've been seeing every time we go to his house. The big guy, like even bigger guy, is Jim Harper. He's Guardian, and he's also another clone of the original Roy. The original version of Roy is the young one here with the shaved head. He goes by Arsenal, and he's the one with the bionic arm. Number 9, though, Halo keeps dying and resurrecting herself in what seems like every other episode. This is sort of like her new thing, learning about her cool light-based powers and her true origins, which I'll explain in a second, because they are setting up some really big stuff. But the big moment for her was when she met with Dr. Fate, and he's like, I can't quite tell what's going on, but you feel like an old soul. That's because they're actually doing the comic book story for her. She was a big part of Batman and the Outsiders in the comics, but the reason why Dr. Fate says she feels like an old soul is because she's literally bonded to the soul of a really old being called an Oracle. So not to be confused with Oracle Barbara Gordon, it's an ancient entity that emerged from the Source Wall at the dawn of the first DC universe, so to speak. So it was before the big cataclysm that split the single universe into the modern day DC multiverse. So she's literally bonded to a creature that's billions of years old. I'm sure what'll happen is they'll just find a way to tease that out over the rest of the series. Like she'll start to remember things that the entity remembers from billions of years ago, and then the entity will somehow help them in their fight with the light. But number 7, reminder about what happened with Zatanna and why he had to sacrifice himself to become Dr. Fate. They sort of touch on that briefly because it's going to come back around. It's important that Dr. Fate be on planet Earth. Way back in the earlier seasons when they were fighting Clarion, Lord of Chaos, the only way they were able to defeat him was when Zatanna, like girls Zatanna, put the Helmet of Fate on and used Naboo's powers. But Naboo said that in order to protect the Earth, he would have to remain there, and the only way to do that is if someone sacrificed themselves to permanently become Dr. Fate. He only freed Zatanna when Zatara agreed to take his place. So because of all that, I'm expecting Clarion to come back, and Dr. Fate will probably have some huge battle later in the season. There's a lot of setup happening in these early episodes, but slowly moving into episode 5, number 6, the war between Forager's race and the New Gods. So this is obviously a big deal. This is just the beginning of what looks like a really big battle happening between New Genesis, the New Gods, and Darkseid and the forces of Apocalypse. So number 5, we find out fake Orion is really Miss Martian's younger brother, big WTF moment, who's trying to start a white Martian revolution. So he's made this Faustian bargain, remember that, Faustian bargain on the Martian homeworld to sow dissension on New Genesis in exchange for new weapons and forces to overthrow the green and red Martians. So he doesn't know about the people that he's bargained with. Probably going to turn out to be some secret plot from Desaad and Darkseid's forces to try and destabilize the New Gods so the Darkseid can continue to try and conquer the universe, and the New Gods will be too busy fighting amongst themselves to try and deal with them. Number 4 was obviously that crazy moment when he detonated the self-destruct devices in those kids' metahuman collars. So remember, these are all little kids. Anytime they kill any of these metahumans on other planets, it's a little kid that's been forced into becoming a metahuman. He escapes into the planet's core. Obviously, he's going to be back before the end of the season. It'll be a big battle for Miss Martian. They're just setting that up for later. Moving into episode 6, the really big stuff. Number 3, biggest surprise, Ra's al Ghul says he's no longer part of the light and no longer the demon's head. Somebody else is leading the League of Shadows, but he won't say who. Artemis wonders if it's Cheshire or her father's sportsmaster. Of the two of them, I think it makes more sense that Cheshire would be the person to be leading the League, but we'll find out about that later. It could wind up being someone else. Other big surprise, baby Damian Wayne and Talia al Ghul. We don't know if Batman knows about this because he looks relatively newborn, like this has happened pretty recently. So unless there's another really big time jump or they just jack him up with Miracle Grow, it'll probably be a while before we see a version of like little kid Damian Wayne doing regular stuff on the TV show. Maybe season 4, but there were always big time jumps between seasons. It was 5 years, the first time jump between 1 and 2, and then between 2 and 3, it was 2 years. So if you really want Damian Wayne to be doing really cool stuff, I think we'll get there eventually. But I think this is just a setup for more Batman story later this season because we see a bunch of Batman in the season 3 trailer, but we haven't got a whole lot of him besides what we saw in episode 1. Number 2 is the revelation that Terra from the comics, obviously, is being forced to work with the League of Shadows, who obviously Ra's al Ghul isn't associated with anymore, but it's all part of her evil comic book backstory. If you haven't seen it, Teen Titans Judas Contract does like a version of her origin story, but she starts out as a plant working with Deathstroke to try and take down the Teen Titans. So I think Young Justice is just kind of doing their version of that. But number 1, WTF, obviously big moment of the episode is they reveal Red Hood, Jason Todd, exists. Like he's the guy that's standing here because he starts to remember Nightwing and Ra's al Ghul says, "Good, you're remembering." So clearly we've missed a couple really big Batman stories, Batman Death in the Family, and possibly Batman the Killing Joke because Barbara Gordon has become Oracle. So if the Joker didn't take her down, then something else really big happened to her. But because they try to be relatively faithful to the comics, I think somewhere between that time jump at the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 3, they had their Killing Joke moment, and that's when she wound up in the wheelchair. But it seems like for right now, Jason Todd is still baking in the oven. Like he hasn't gone completely off the rails and gone back to Gotham. And it just seems like they're setting up a really big Batman family story within Young Justice. So really excited for that Batman Robin's reunion in whatever Young Justice's version of Under the Red Hood is going to be. But that's basically the story that's playing out per all these Jason Todd scenes. So a whole lot of big teasers for stuff that they're going to pay off later. A lot of Batman stuff happening in this last episode. And don't forget that they also name drop Wally West again. So Wally West is very present in Young Justice episodes, even though he's still believed, quote unquote, believed to be dead, which I've already done a video about. So if you haven't seen that, click here for my Wally West video and why he's probably coming back, and click here to rewatch that opening scene from Young Justice Season 3. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.